Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Zareth Prevails, a Grand Arena story. We are in our final group in Grand Arena Championship number 3, which means that this is the opening round. I have a pod of new players to potentially scheme against, and I think the most exciting thing about all of that is that none of my opponents have a Relic 7 General Skywalker, so I dodged that bullet this time, thank goodness. Today I'm facing Hugo Hume, or something similar to that. I don't really know, and I guess it doesn't matter to me. My opponent had a really strong roster with a lot of very interesting teams that they composed, and I'll show you guys their defense in a little bit, of course, as I attempt to dismantle them, but otherwise, we're just moving right along toward Kyber. If I can win this, then I should be able to just get into Kyber without even placing defenses or anything for the rest of the round, so I mean, I guess that's cool, but it's kind of sad that Kyber's been devalued to this point, because I've even lost a match. But let's move on to the stats, though. My opponent didn't necessarily have anything that was egregiously better than mine. They had 2 more Tier 7 relics than me, which isn't necessarily my favorite thing, but it's something I can live with. I've dealt with bigger deficits in the past. Other relics were all pretty similar, so they just have those 2 up on me. I have more Gear 13 and Gear 12. They have more Gear 11. I have slightly more Zetas. Really, I mean, there's not much here. I mean, even the mods are like really close to each other. None of us have a distinct advantage, which is actually kind of nice. It's nice to actually enter the match with a pretty even playing field. The total GA stats, I do definitely have an edge in lifetime banners in offensive wins. They actually have a way bigger number of defensive wins, though, and you guys will see their really strong defense in a little bit. So a little bit nervous going into this match with that, but you know, it's always nice to have my offense tested by really strong defense, and this is absolutely what that match was. So let's just jump right into the match itself.
Are you invoking the combat of the kings?
Call it whatever you want. I call it an ass-whoopin.
After scouting my opponent's roster, I really didn't know what kind of defense to expect. You know, probably just something pretty standard. And, you know, there are a lot of standard teams here that you can see. You can see the standard Nightsisters with Talzin lead, but still Nightsisters. The Nute team was really strong, though. Really strong and fast, in fact. The Grievous team had BB-8, which was interesting just because BB-8 is someone that adds a lot to that squad, but it also means that my opponent won't really be able to use Jedi Training Ray to full effect, so I mean, I was okay with that. Their General Skywalker team was pretty strong, not the strongest I've seen though, and the Geonosians were pretty standard. So let's take a minute to look at all the different matchups and everything that I was trying to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. Right away, I recognized that my opponent had placed a pretty strong defense, and whereas their Nightsisters were almost all entirely relicked, and they had some really strong, really high-level relics on those Nightsisters, none of them were faster than my troopers were. So I decided to take the troopers, even though I was pretty severely outgeared. I figured I'd probably be able to take that. After that, the Nute Separatist team, you know, after looking at their speeds, you know, I was initially just going to throw Traya in there, but looking at their relic levels, looking at their speeds, they were really fast. Like, the Dooku was almost at plus 140 speed with multiple relic levels. You know, all of them had relic levels except for Watt, which he doesn't necessarily need them to be awesome. So, you know, there's Watt, there's Nute that is also fast. I think he was at like plus 130 speed. Their Nest was really fast and strong, also relict. And, you know, it was just a really strong team. Jango had multiple relic levels. Not a team that I really wanted to mess with, to be honest. And looking at the General Grievous squad with BB-8, I didn't really want to mess with them either, with Jedi Knight Revan. I think that maybe I could beat them, especially after watching some videos and stuff. But, my goal here was actually just to be able to, use my best squad against the General Grievous squad, which means that my Jedi Revan team was open, and my Darth Traya team, on the other hand, was just not strong enough. Like, I think that maybe I would have been able to get Annihilate off on one of them or something, but after a while, I think they would have just whittled me down and taken me out, frankly, just because of the gear disparity. Not all relics are going to change the mechanics of a match. Like, the mechanics actually don't change, but the damage from relics and the resilience from relics is what matters. And in this case, my gear 12 Traya team was probably not going to be taking on a full relic whatever Separatist team, and so I decided I wanted to take Jedi Revan there. And after I decided that, then the other pieces started falling into place. I doubted that my opponent was going to be able to take their Darth Revan or put it on defense, and even if they did, my Padme team has continuously been getting relic levels and just getting stronger and stronger. I've been modding them, giving them 6E mods, everything, and so I felt like I had a decent chance with Padme against their Darth Revan, and even if I didn't, I just needed to get through this zone and see what was in the back anyways, and then I could change my plans if I needed to. So if they did put their Darth Revan team in full in the back, then I would be able to readjust things as I saw fit. I felt like taking Jedi Revan here was probably the strongest against Nute, and after that everything just fell into place. Traya would be paired against Geonosians in the classic duel of attrition, and their General Skywalker team could pretty easily be taken by Commander Luke if I wanted to. So, in the back I was just hoping that there'd be a fluff team of some sort for First Order to feast on. So, let's see what was in the second zone after I clear the first zone, of course, if I can. So first up are Nightsisters, and they're pretty high relics. Everyone but Asajj has a relic on them. Some of them have higher relics than others. Their Daka actually had a Zeta and higher relic levels, so a couple of hurdles here, but as I said before, my Stark is faster, and so he went first. He put some buffs on everyone. Death Trooper goes next, and he was able to get his grenade off, dispel zombie, which is huge, and be able to increase cooldowns on the rest of them. After this, I was trying to figure out who I wanted to target, to be able to take out. And what I ended up deciding on was, Asajj was by far the weakest to be able to take out, but, I targeted Talzin for the AoE just to be able to make sure that, I did maximum damage, and you can just see the Snowtrooper at Relic 4 just doesn't really care about Nightsisters at all and their resilience. So 60 banners in less than a minute is always really nice to be able to start the match with. After I won my first attack, I felt like momentum was on my side, and it was time to keep building our momentum. So one thing that I did want to point out in this match, and for every match to be honest, was just the fact that it is such a huge deal to be able to pre-plan your attacks and know what all of your different squads are going to be assigned to do. Just because, you're not stepping into a match hoping like, okay, even if I win, maybe I'm screwing myself because I won't be able to use this team anymore. But in this case, I was pretty excited to be able to take my Jedi Revan into this new team. I hadn't done that before at this point, and so I was looking at the buff that Watt handed out to Nest, and it was the tank buff, which is kind of random, but that's what he did. So my first target, of course, was Watt, and he didn't have relics on him. He wasn't at full 7 stars, and so he was pretty squishy. And my goal here now, after I've taken Watt out so that he's not giving out more relics, is to take Dooku out. Dooku can't revive. He doesn't have a way to get back as long as Watt is gone. And, after that, it gets a little more tricky, because Jango we can't target because he has his bounty up, or, his contract up. And so that means he's immune to damage. Nest, you can only really do one hit before she's, the damage on her is kind of worthless, and so I did hit Nest, and apparently my Relic 3 Grandmaster Yoda, with, all of his offensive mods and everything, was able to just one-shot her, which is a huge weight off my back. Like, she didn't do anything. She's Relic 1 Nest, and she just got one-shot by Grandmaster Yoda, so that was nice. Now Nute is finally out of his hiding place so I can kill him second time. And to be honest, I mean, that's an annoying mechanic if you're facing him, but at the same time, it's nice because I hate Nute in the movies. He's a really frustrating guy, and it's nice to be able to kill him twice whenever I possibly can. So, you know, Jango came out of his hiding place just in time for me to be able to just take him out without wasting any time. And at this point, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to be able to win. How many banners can I get from this match? And everyone had bonus protection on, and I wasn't sure, so I'm just staring at my characters, trying to figure out which one of them needed extra protection. And, you know, you can't replay it or anything, so... you know, I made the best guess possible, so 59 banners, one of them. I still don't know which one was missing protection, but 59 is pretty good considering those speeds. That was just a fine result. So now we get to see what was in the back zone and have better information so that I can see if I can use my Darth Revan on General Grievous or not. And luckily for me, it's just Bossk and Clone War Chewie, which is actually kind of a tricky team, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. So one thing that kind of made me laugh about that match was after this championships were over, I actually went and watched one of Indigo's videos, and he had faced the exact same matchup and you know, used the exact same team against this. So, you know, that was a nice affirmation on my end, but also it was like if I had just gone to his channel and watched his video beforehand, it would have been a lot easier choice, honestly, just to see how he handled it. So, you know, I'm going to actually include his link at the bottom of or rather at the top of this video description, and so check out his site. He's got a lot of really great Grand Arena videos, a lot of other videos, counter videos and stuff. Go check it out. He's been doing a lot of really great things for probably longer than I have, so go check him out. Anyways, moving forward into this Darth Revan match here against General Grievous and BB-8. You'll notice that immediately all of the droids got a lot of turns because BB-8 and his various mechanics allow him to give everyone a ton of turn meter, and all of the droids started first. And even though my Darth Revan is at 342 speed, which is actually pretty fast, I wasn't really able to mitigate that. BB-8 still went way before him, so took out my Marauder right away, and you know, I was able to get Fear on Grievous right away, so I was able to take out BB-8 without him going crazy. Now the question is, how can I get one of these droids to 50% health so that I could get Death Mark on General Grievous and be able to take him out? And the answer was there wasn't really an easy way to do that. He had already had Death Mark on him once with BB-8, and he had apparently gone immediately afterwards, so I wasn't able to capitalize on that. And this team just does so much damage. It's really pretty gross. And so I took a shot at General Grievous there. What I should have done probably is just done a basic against one of the other two droids and you know, gotten Death Mark on Grievous, but instead I was kind of dumb and just did a hit on Grievous himself. He marked someone else, and luckily Malak was able to survive the onslaught afterward. None of the other team was able to, and you know, after that it was just a matter of like, can Malak actually chew through these guys before it's done? I think this this B1 droid is at like relic 6 or something crazy, and this battle droid, super battle droid, has a lot of hit points as well. He's high relics as well, so you know, we're just taking him out. Now we can hopefully be able to take out this B1. But the B1 is really fast, and so he's getting a lot of turns. He's recharging his hit points quite a bit. Luckily, Malak also is, I mean, he's not as fast as this B1, but he's okay. And every time you hit B1, you take out 8 hit points, and B1 only recharges 5. So every time, if we just swap turns, then I'm able to, you know, get a net gain of 3. So just put it on auto for a little bit. Wanted to make sure that I was able to, you know, beat this droid in time. And I did take it off auto at the end there just to make sure I did the right move and recharge to full health and protection. So 48 there from Malak. Not a good score, not at all. That BB-8 squad really took me by surprise. Like, it was a really close match, and I'm really lucky that I didn't have to two-shot. So I complain about getting a 48, but in reality, that was actually a decent result. I mean, dropping 12 banners on one squad is awful, and I almost lost the whole thing, and I guess I should be focused more on, I didn't actually lose that match, I still one-shotted it. And the truth was that that wasn't that bad. I mean, I still got 48 instead of 40 or less for having to two-shot it, so, happy enough with that. And you have to be able to deal with losses anyway. So the next match was going to be against General Skywalker. I decided not to use my Commander Luke team here just because Commander Luke was... I think he would have been just fine against this team, but I would have dropped banners because inevitably Old Ben would have taken a dirt nap. He would have died right away, and so I was pretty confident that my Padme team would just be able to one-shot this team without losing anyone. And as it turned out, Commander Luke also had a really strong counter that I could use him on later on. So, no real risk here. The main concern here is trying to be able to get through Skywalker fast enough to be able to take out 5s, and then to be able to take out Rex so that he doesn't do his Annihilate move on Kenobi, and then I just drop a bunch of banners because I lost someone. So working on the first topple is always the hardest, in my opinion, and for some reason I selected Echo here and assumed that meant 5s, so apparently I have a reading error. So I did kill Echo right away, but then of course 5s dropped and I buffed the entire clone team, which wasn't great, but then I was able to kill the other clones without actually needing to worry anyways. So I don't really know. That worked well. It could have ended up in disaster, but huge misstep that ended up working okay. So here I put smoke on everyone except for R2 apparently, even though I forgot that Kenobi was taunting. So it's just going to take a while to get used to this team, honestly, in this counter. 56 banners though was just fine. I could have dropped quite a few more. Padme is a good counter to this team, and I'm going to continue developing it. I think that's going to be the first team that I develop, in fact. So Padme is good. Finally, we have this Traya team against Geonosians, and I just knew that I wanted to avoid getting surprised, so I took the full 5-man team. I know that some people get on and some people are going to criticize me for not taking an undersized team, and I guess that's fair enough, but my Thrawn was faster than their Brood Alpha, and I just decided it was nice to be able to play it safe if I could. So Thrawn immediately passed turn meter to Traya because Thrawn went first. Traya put Isolate on the Brute so that he wouldn't be able to taunt, and that meant that he wouldn't be able to add assists either, which is also a considerable amount of damage, especially because he's one of the only ones on the team who is relict, so he's got a pretty hard hit. And now I'm just trying to do as much damage as I can. I mean, Traya doesn't really rely on me doing damage against Geonosians. It relies on the Geonosians doing damage to themselves. And so, I was able to get Annihilate off right away because Traya passed on one of her cooldown reductions to Nihilus, and Nihilus was able to get the Force Siphon, or whatever it's called, off, and just be able to, he got it on 6 guys, and that's pretty cool. So immediately he went from 8 down to 1, got his Annihilate on a second move, and we're just moving right along. Being able to annihilate the Brood Alpha, of course, is the one that you want to be able to do, just because Brood Alpha is the one that ties the entire team together, and once you lose the hive mind bonus that you get from Brood Alpha, then the rest of the match, it becomes easy, just because none of the Geonosians are actually good on their own. They're really good because they can do a lot of damage, all together. They're always assisting, always doing this stuff. And so you can see here, I'm kind of trying to delay my fight just because I want to get Thrawn to have one more turn to be able to, either regenerate some of his health or be able to regenerate someone else's protection. And so that's what I was able to do eventually, was add protection to Scion. And so Scion is at full protection, and there wasn't much point in continuing the fight. I tried to do Fracture to heal Thrawn up all the way, but he didn't get enough, I don't think. So, that many banners is just fine. Honestly, I mean, I probably could have gotten the same with fewer characters, but why take chances? I mean, I just want to get wins here. That's the thing that matters the most to me. And I was able to clear this side, and Of course, my opponent put their slightly faster Negotiator on defense, as everyone does, so that we have that to look forward to later. And the back zone here, Bossk with Stormtrooper Han, it was going to be pretty easy. I mean, there wasn't really anything that scary about it. There was no high relics other than Bossk, and just Bossk doesn't win matches. Like, he's hard to chew through, but against a Commander Luke team where I can stun and get tenacity down and, dispel all this stuff, like, it wasn't going to be much of a threat, to be honest. And so I did check. I went back and just checked to make sure that there wasn't anything too egregious here. And, there wasn't. So immediately I stunned Bossk because he was really fast. I didn't want him to get the taunt off before I was able to kill a few of the bounty hunters. And immediately I targeted Boba because Boba can, do all of his AoEs, and do a lot of crazy stuff. I wanted to be able to get as many banners from this match as possible after the Darth Revan versus BB-8 fiasco. And so, we're just trying here to, take out characters, try to do the control thing. I have 2 characters that can stun. 3, really. I mean, Commander Luke can also stun in the right circumstance. And so, just trying to stun and make it so the bounty hunters don't get as many turns as they would like. And at the end, there wasn't really an issue. I hated the thermal detonators because they were going to just slowly take away my life, and so I tried to end the fight earlier rather than dragging it out. But really, with those 3, there's only so much dragging out you can do anyways. Those guys were gonna die pretty soon, so fairly easy match there. 61 banners and an undersized win, which is always nice. And then finally I had my first order, which, I have the first order feat that I'm working on as well, so I needed to use them somewhere. This is a great opportunity. My first order executioner is gear 13 for this. He's like the only upgrade that I actually got in before the lock went on, and I prematurely locked myself again. So this is actually a really interesting squad. There's a lot of damage from mission here. There's only one real damage dealer, and so I was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. I wanted to take out mission if I could. And so, this is a high tenacity Zalbar, so trying to stun him was kind of just not going to work. Wasn't in the cards. And I had kind of been foolish. I'd set myself up to fail just because I didn't have a dispel ready for him when it came up. And you'll notice, so Zalbar finally cleared his taunt, and then I was trying to get to Vander. And Vander, is the lifeblood of this squad. Like, if one of these guys dies while he has prepared up, then Vander is going to be able to revive them. And so, as you can see, though, I got past Zalbar's taunt. Clone Wars Chewie was taunting. L3, if I hadn't double stunned her and then, not hit her again, then she would be taunting. And Zalbar would probably, or rather, Vander would probably be able to get his prepared up, and then it would be a huge mess. And so there's actually those 3 taunts are really good. Like, L3 is really good with her taunts, and the only way you can really control that with First Order is to be able to stun her. After you stun her, though, you can't hit her again, because if you hit her and she takes damage, then she's going to dispel that stun on herself. So you can see I want to be doing the AoE from original Kylo, but that's not really working, because if I did the AoE, I would hit L3 and she would dispel her stun, and then she would go and taunt, and it would make a big mess again. And I'd just be ping-ponging between L3 and Zalbar. And you can see the First Order Stormtrooper is actually pretty low on health. If you looked earlier, if you want to rewind, I'm not going to do it for you, but if you want to rewind, he was actually really close to dead. And so we're trying to get full banners here, of course, after the BB-8 fiasco. We want to make sure we're getting as many banners as possible, and that just means getting him a lot of buffs if you can. So every time First Order officer went, he was able to hand more buffs off to the Stormtrooper. And Stormtrooper can be healed really fast, actually, because not only can he be buffed from First Order officer, but he can also buff himself. And so he finally got his buff off. He called it assist from Fox, and that was just barely enough to put me over the edge for 60 banners. So much tougher team than the banner total would indicate, but still got the full 60 there. Not an awesome team in terms of like holding a lot. It's a good team for surprising people, which it certainly did that. So So now we get to the chore section of the Grand Arena, because I'm not a huge fan of ships. I know that some people really love it, and I don't mean to insult anyone who does, but this mode is just not fun for me. So, you know, I do try to compete and get better at it, because that's necessary for the game and all that. But one really frustrating thing is that my Negotiator was just a shade slower than my opponent's, because I had forgotten to put Relic 7 on General Kenobi before lock, and so pretty frustrating. Now I hit Jedi Knight Anakin here for some damage, and immediately Houndstooth taunted. Now this is problematic for me, because Houndstooth needed to wait to taunt essentially until Jedi Knight Anakin went, my General Anakin, and I was able to hit him to about 40% health. As it stands, I wasn't able to get that off, and so the Negotiator was able to get their days off, and I got really lucky here in the sense that dodge the days, or whatever, resist the days. And so, you know, I got really lucky there, because then I was able to go immediately. I also got my shot off and was able to get an AoE off and take out their Anakin. And, you know, this was all really close, though. Was able to take out their Anakin and their Houndstooth. Luckily, you know, all my debuffs landed from my Anakin, and so was able to take, you know, do buff block on him and everything. Plo came in next to be able to dispel things and heal my guys, give them turn meter, and now it's just that, like, this is a fight that I've never fought. You know, trying to take out the enemy ships without like a set order of things. But honestly, I mean, I've done this enough times that I guess, you know, I'm good at improvising, if nothing else. And so right now I'm just kind of waiting out these ships, because once they take enough turns, then their invincibility buff is going to wear off, and I'll just be able to one-shot them rather than having to shoot them, wait for them to come out of stealth, and shoot them again. Shelf is kind of fun to say, actually, so I'm going to keep that in there instead of editing it out. Maybe I'll just start calling it that from now on. But you know, we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants essentially here, just trying to get as many banners as we can. You know, being able to take out Houndstooth and Anakin was really like that was the crucial part of this. And so you can see I had my ultimate ready. Ultimate probably wouldn't have taken out that last chip, so I just did my AoE, which meant that I had assists and was able to take it out. Ended right there before trying to heal up and inevitably failing. So, you know, got the one shot, 57 banners. I find that acceptable. And with that, I had one shot all of my opponent's teams. Not necessarily the most efficient banner score here, but 1911 is something okay, and I'll definitely take it, considering my defense is actually relatively strong. It also put a lot of pressure on my opponent, because if they didn't one-shot everything, then they would lose immediately. And so eventually, after a really long time, they didn't have much time left to attack. They finally did, and their attack didn't actually do a whole bunch. You know, no offense to my opponent, but my defenses did hold pretty well. And you can see I got an extra defense on both of the squads in my front zone here, and you know, that was great. I got one shot on my Jango team, but then Shaak Ti held 3 times. I didn't even lose. And then my General Grievous with Watt squad, which is something new I was trying, also held before crumbling. And then my Geonosians, my opponent didn't even try against it. And my Jedi Training Rey team also defended once before my opponent gave up on it. So overall, a pretty good result. So after this match, I talked to my opponent a little bit, and they gave me a couple teams that they used. So they tried to use Malak to solo my clones, which didn't pan out, and then their Jedi Revan team tried to take out my Grievous team with Watt, which also didn't work. And then after that was kind of just touch and go, trying to improvise what teams to use, and obviously didn't work out as well as my opponent was hoping for. So, you know, lucky on me. This is probably the most dominant my defense has ever done, to be honest. And I doubt that it's going to happen again. I think my opponent's score indicates that they were a more skilled offensive opponent than they did in this match. So I guess just rinse repeat for them, and you know, on to the next match for me. But I was just excited for how well my defense did. I actually crossed the threshold of 100 total defenses after this match. And that was that. After I beat my opponent, then, if I want to, I haven't currently, as of this recording, deployed my defenses, but once I do, I will enter Kyber League, which is cool, but also kind of frustrating just because I've even lost a match and I'm already at Kyber. So, it's definitely a lot easier to get into this time. It's way less exclusive. I used to use that as kind of a selling point for my videos just because, I've made Kyber 3 times, and if I make it a 4th time, that's great. But now it's like a lot of people are going to make it, and I don't begrudge people being able to make it. Honestly, that's great. It's just a little frustrating. Like, I wish I had something more to achieve, and so my goal here is trying to get top 200, which I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that because I forgot about a couple feats recently, and so I didn't finish those. So we'll just see. But one way or another, I'm into Kyber, which is great. That's always the goal. It's always been the goal anyways. And, we'll see what the rest of the matches hold for me. A lot of really, really strong rosters in my pod, even without Relic 7 General Skywalker. So, anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. And stay tuned for my next video. Semifinals should be at least moderately exciting. And remember that in all things, Zareth prevails.